Could the notions of both empty mind and affirmations be reconciled? This evening's lesson is drawn from a good-hearted question found on Reddit, which reads, how can I have an empty mind and focus on an affirmation? Fairly new meditator here, but if I try to detach, be present, and empty my mind of all thinking activity, isn't that in conflict with saying an affirmation? Or even repeating a mantra? I mean, a mantra is itself an affirmation. Come, my friends, let us begin with broad brushstrokes, and I want to take a moment to send a psychic hug to Kexi and Jay and Ro and Teddy and Charlotte. And of course, thank you, oh Kevin, for your generosity. So, in response to the fellow who asked the remarkably prescient question, I'm going to start with broad brushstrokes. So, I'm really glad that you value. You're more enthusiastic to grow and you evolve and learn than you are to protect your fragile dignity. Always be curious, always be courageous. Well done. So whatever confusion you gave voice to is 100% understandable. Number one, in the metaphysical community, there are a lot of voices. Few of them are wise. In the Buddhist community, there are a lot of people who are so rigid and uptight, they fail to recognize figures of speech as figures of speech, teach them literally, and then confuse everybody. So, whatever confusion you have is not your fault, and it is my desire to dispel it gently and perhaps even humorously. Let's begin with Gautama and manifesting. You might say, Gautama, Shmautama, I'm talking about the Buddha. Who's this guy talking about? Well, Gautama was the family name of the Prince Siddhartha, who eventually was given the nickname of Buddha or Enlightened One. So there you go. A little trivia there to impress your friends with. So, Gautama had no need to manifest. That was a lucky boy. That boy was born into wealth and power and prestige. There was no debaucherous desire, no loftiness of prestige that wasn't at his fingertips. I think it's very interesting, though, that despite having all those things that so many manifestors just salivate over, he said, meh. And he sought the meaning of life not in more power, not in more pleasure, not in more prestige, not in more wealth, but in peace and love. So, I don't know about you, but I was really stuck on manifesting. I even studied hypnosis, and I was convinced, and I studied NLP and neuroassociative conditioning and all this stuff, and I was convinced that you could manifest enlightenment until I began experimenting with it full time, every day, for decades. Because I had just enough American hubris to say, this whole Buddhism thing, I bet I can improve it. I bet I got a good beat on things. I'm sure you're much more humbler than I was. But yeah. So I tried reinventing everything with the utmost of enthusiasm. And good old Anthony Robbins popularized the phrase, take massive action. The quickest way to test a hypothesis is take massive action and then notice your results. My results were, in the words of Bart Simpson, were craptacular. Okay, so Jay asks a really good question, which is good. I was scared that at Halloween he'll ask me a question, and that would hurt my neck and my feelings. So Jay has an excellent question. Is it okay to be yang with money? And we'll get to that un momento, in a minute. So first off, the Buddha's path was not a path of manifesting, was not a path of wealth. He's like, hey, dude, I already got all the wealth I want. It ain't getting me what I desire. I'm going to look elsewhere. Kind of like shopping for cookware at a hardware store. Yes, you might find a steely surface. Yes, you might find an acetylene torch or some such thing. But you're probably not going to find the TV chef approved cookware you desire. So you want to shop elsewhere. That's what the Buddha did. So let's dig a little deeper. In my mind's eye, I'm hearing the chirp of backing up heavy equipment, and I'm unleashing the fury of the backhoe. So let's talk about affirmations, faith, and rigidity. Sometimes rigidity is great. You know, like you're building a house, you don't want it to blow over in the wind. But any engineer will tell you, you actually can't have a perfectly rigid house if you want it to be sustainable. There has to be a little bit of flex because of so many variables: earth settling, earthquakes, traumatic weather events. There has to be some flex. There has to be some give. Even in bridges, even in skyscrapers in Chicago, the super tall skyscrapers and the high winds are reconciled by engineers factoring in wind-oriented skyscraper, like that's a new word just for you, skyscraper sway in their calculations. So rigidity, any faith that relies on rigidity is out of sync with nature. Our friend Lao Tzu, who gave us the 81 poems of the Tao Te Ching and taught us how to recognize what attitudes or behaviors were yang and what attitudes and behaviors were yin. And, contrary to popular belief, he insisted that if we wish to be healthy and happy, we must forsake yang and always embrace yin. What about no, always? But what about no, always? And now I have to reference our friend Dr. Evil. No, that was a preemptive no. Nope. I forgot the name of the love child of Dr. Evil. If you was it Scott? Was Scott the love child? Let me know in the what's it called? The live chat. So yang could be described in terms of being rigid, fearful, superstitious, controlling, elitist, cryptic, competitive, cruel, and a partridge in a pear tree. Whereas yin could be described instead as being flexible, loving, rational, laid-back, egalitarian, lucid, cooperative, and kind. So we're going to contrast being flexible and laid back with being rigid and controlling. Now, there was a wonderful movie from the early 90s with Woody Harrelson. I forgot the name of it. It was a biopic about Larry Flint. If you remember the name. Scott, yes, thank you, Kevin. So what was the name of the biopic starring Woody Harrelson about Larry Flint? In it, Larry Flint has a discussion with a woman who's very enthusiastic for Christ, and Larry decides that he's now a Christian. And his wife said, he said something along the lines in a meeting with faith, nothing is impossible. And then his wife said, oh, really? Then we use your faith to break down that brick wall. And to his credit, he actually tried. So bless his heart. But there's something very, very, very Well, good old Neil Gaiman uses the People versus Larry Flint. Kevin, the geek is strong with you, sir. I bow before your mastery of trivia. Well done. So good old, there's a phrase I learned from Neil Gaiman about teenage boys and superhero comics. And he used the phrase power fantasy. Those who feel disempowered fantasize about having power. Most of us are not born princes. Most of us know lack and scarcity and some form of impotence after another, and we desire power. And so the idea of being rigid and controlling seems peachy keen, but the great spiritual masters were not really popular with that. You might say, dude, that's Taoism. What about Buddhism? And I'd say, well, you know, those same lessons were dragged into Buddhism and were described as Devadatta's attributes, or the attributes of wicked Devadatta versus the attributes of kind and wise Gautama. So in the Buddha's path, flexibility, being flexible and being laid back are lauded. Oh yeah, Neil Gaiman's the man. He's the boss. He's the bomb. So the very mechanism of faith and belief and affirming and being rigid is actually antithetical to higher spirituality that cherishes being flexible and laid back. So remember, whether the Buddha was real or merely archetypical, one of the lessons we can learn from the life story of the Buddha is this: the path of peace is not paved with power or wealth or prestige or pleasure. He already had those things. He was dissatisfied. Now let us explore the second half of your question pertaining to emptiness. So when we explore emptiness, we have to first determine whether we're going to explore it as a literal phenomena or a figurative phenomena. Now this is that which separates the men from the boys and the women from the girls. Because the children are going to be more rigid and more controlling, but the adults, the spiritual adults, are going to be more flexible and laid back. So, the more rigid we are, the more literal our communication style is going to be. The more flexible we are, the more open we are to the possibility that the words we're hearing are not necessarily always literal all the time. There is room for things to mean more than they literally mean. Again, I'm borrowing a phrase or bastardizing a phrase from our friend Neil. You show me a teacher who takes a literal view of emptiness, and I'll show you someone who believes that it takes the length of time to cultivate enlightenment is so great that it takes 3 kalpas. A kalpa being an Indian term, an ancient Indian term, describing the birth, growth, maintenance, cessation, collapsing, and absence of a universe. That has to take place 3 times before you can become a Buddha. And that's what we call moving the goalposts. You know, good old Buddha taught in the second to the last passage of the Satipatthana Sutta that full enlightenment could be mastered in 7 days. You got these other schmoes saying it takes the length of 3 universes? No. That's what we call moving the goalposts. So some people it's like, I don't know how to get there from here, therefore you can't get there from here. Because clearly, I know everything, and if I don't know it, it can't be possible. It's gone so radical that people were like, dude, if some guy thinks he's enlightened, he must be deceived. Why, even in Buddha's time, someone's like, just kept badgering the Buddha. Hey, Buddha, are you enlightened? Are you enlightened? How about now? How about now? Hey, Buddha, are you enlightened? So, and eventually, and I'm going to say this with a Jewish accent, the Buddha responded, enough already, I'm enlightened, you can be enlightened too. To which this guy said, I knew it, you're deluded, and he just stomped off, never to be heard from again. Did that happen? I don't know. That's a wonderful story that people can be so rigid that they sabotage the fulfillment of their own desires. So emptiness is, if we were to take emptiness literally and literally try to empty our mind, would be in trouble, because the first of the 7 enlightenment factors is mindfulness. But emptiness, if we try to stop perceiving, emoting, intending, reasoning, recalling, and imagining, that would require us to repress our mindfulness, which I would not recommend. So let us instead view emptiness figuratively, and we'll do that by looking at the Buddha's path through the lens of neuroscience. Brace yourself. So, the 7th, and we're going to explore the 7th and 8th folds of the Buddha's Eightfold Path, the key to effortlessly mastering the Buddha's path, the key to effortlessly mastering enlightenment. When we actively rely upon the medial prefrontal cortex to actively concentrate, when we rely upon the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex to actively contemplate, our blood tends to collect at our amygdala. Found at the base of our limbic system, it serves as the seat of both aggression and anxiety, which are pretty much the opposite things most people want from meditation. So here's the cool thing. When we replace active concentration for the passive mindfulness that we have access to through our sympathetic nervous system, the same sympathetic nervous system that we automatically access during each inhalation, the same sympathetic nervous system that is ensconced within the thoracic region of our spinal cord, the same sympathetic nervous system that has evolved to notice vulnerably, passively, viscerally, and randomly. And when we replace our reliance upon active contemplation and with our reliance upon our parasympathetic nervous system, the same parasympathetic nervous system we access during every exhalation, the same parasympathetic nervous system that is ensconced within both the lower lumbar region of our spinal cord as well as the tippy top of the cervical region of that same spinal cord. When we rely upon that exhalations parasympathetic nervous system, then physical relaxation and mental release become effortless. Now let's take it a step further. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever we noticed during our previous inhalation could feel at least a little bit less graspable, less controlling, less defining of who or what we are. Now, let's take that same phenomena and view it through a figurative lens. After all complex life forms on this planet have evolved to think symbolically. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever we noticed during our previous inhalation could begin to feel as if it was as non-graspable as a vast, empty void. So, any English teacher who is effective will remind us that a simile is only as useful as it is relatable. So we must ask, what is a tangible, real-world example of a non-graspable, vast, empty void. How about the illusion of the infinite azure sky on a bright and beautiful cloudless morn, which, although could be tantalizing to the eye, could be utterly non-graspable to the hand. So emptiness is just a metaphor for the way things can feel momentarily as we relax. And I say momentarily because we're always breathing in, and then we're breathing out. We're noticing, and we're releasing. Back and forth. No state is better or worse than the other. Just like the pendulum of a grandfather clock swings ponderously left and right, and then left again, and then right again, and then left again, and then right again, until the weights have exhausted themselves, exhausted their potentiality. Similarly, as long as we draw breath, as long as we live, we are already wired, thanks to our autonomic nervous system, to perceive and release in a way that promotes peace and love. You see, here's the really cool thing. If mindfulness is the seventh fold of the eightfold path, and meditation is the eighth fold of the eightfold path, these two bad boys give birth to the sixth fold of the eightfold path, which is effortless effort. You see, moving away from active concentration and active contemplation and moving towards passive mindfulness and passive meditation causes that blood that we talked about getting stuck in our amygdala to shift to our anterior cingulate gyrus. This catcher's mitt-like hunk of meat, just a few centimeters behind our forehead, functions as the seat of empathy and compassion and love, the hub of our mirror neurons. That is why the greatest Dzogchen Lamas of Tibet have taught that the highest love is spontaneous and uncontrived. 50% of the Buddha's Eightfold Path, the second, third, fourth, and fifth folds of the Buddha's Eightfold Path, pertain to love's centered spontaneity. But what has that to do with effortless effort? Glad you asked. Consider this gal the color of a cumulus cloud. Notice how she appears to be actively delighting in tantric union. This reminds us that contrivance is always trumped by spontaneity. Consider her partner, who appears to be passively savoring the same tantric union. This reminds us that not all spontaneity is created equal, and that when we experience the scattered spontaneity, such as the type that comes from throwing back 3 espressos in 30 minutes, that scattered spontaneity, that caffeinated spontaneity, that manic spontaneity will always be trumped by the centered spontaneity. That is the fringe benefit of mindfulness and meditation and harmony with our inhalation and exhalation. Furthermore, the more our choices, utterances, and deeds flow from love's centered spontaneity, the more we experience the effortless effort that makes of our life bliss. Bliss that is comparable, literally or figuratively, to a real or imagined Buddha's paradise, or Pure Land, or Vati, if you prefer Sanskrit. So, I don't know if you're as geeky as me. I don't know if you've watched a bunch of kung fu movies growing up. I sure did love Kung Fu Hustle. I thought that was really, really funny. But a stereotype in every kung fu movie is the novice versus the master. When the novice blocks, they put their entire mind and body and soul into the block. And when a novice punches, oh, they try so hard to punch. But when a master slips a punch, he moves just barely enough to get out of the way, just exuding the minimum amount of effort. When we flow with the effortless effort of love's centered spontaneity, we are like a kung fu master, dancing his way or her way through life. And that is the freedom the Buddha offers you. I do look forward to getting into finer details after approximately 30 seconds of housekeeping. This is Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. For more than 30 years, I spent about 8 hours a day, almost every day, studying, practicing, mastering, and reverse engineering the teachings and techniques of each sect of Buddhism so that you wouldn't have to. Welcome, my friends, to Meditate Like a Jedi, which is made possible due to the generosity of viewers just like you. So I spy with my little eye a comment from Kevin. Love, martial arts, lone wolf, and cub. That sounds like a samurai. Boy, when was that? That was in the late 70s, wasn't it? Late 70s, early 80s? Wow, that was a long time ago. So what's this image here? Is that the Cookie Monster? I can't tell, Kevin. I'm going to assume that's the Cookie Monster. Anyway, in the words of Kramer from Seinfeld, giddy up. Oh, won't you please chant with me? As we relax into our exhalation, whatever lower abdomen we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could begin to feel as non-graspable Buddha's real or imagined Siddhis, mustard seeds, I said a blah of green light. As we breathe in, please silently and mentally recite wombs, green, womb, whether you're male or female, womb in this context just refers to your lower abdomen. During your exhalation, please silently and mentally recite the 3-syllable verb relaxing. Now, a fun thing to do is to practice this for 4 rounds, assuming a round is simply one inhalation followed by one exhalation. And an easy way to count this for 4 repetitions is this. We can advance the tip of our left thumb during each inhalation, allowing it to come to rest upon either a set of creases of one of our fingers or a tip. So please follow along with me. No, our job is not to actively visualize or believe or emote. All we got to do is play with these words silently and mentally, passively, in harmony with our breathing. Sit back and just let autopilot take care of the heavy lifting. And now we can return to that which we explored during the opening lesson. As we inhale, we can silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this. As we exhale, we can silently and mentally recite the one-syllable verb is. Let us play with this right now for 12 rounds. Continuing on the same hand. Together. So for 4 rounds, we played with a passive contemplation, and now we're playing with just mindfulness and meditation. We're like a child who's set their toy aside and taking a nap. I guess more like a cat. Cats are good nappers, aren't they? So, yes, I've left it. I lift my hand before the camera, so you have to kind of get a feel for how Bengali crease counting works. But lifting my hand up like a Buddhist Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'm sorry, like a Buddhist Arnold Horshack, Mr. Carter, is not sustainable. I'm going to rest my hands in my lap, as we see demonstrated in this bit of tantric art. Please chant with me. As we relax into our exhalation, the area behind the navel that we might have noticed during our previous inhalation. Oh, that's where I got confused. Aha. Could begin to feel as non-graspable as real or imagined that are not some bonfires, mustard seeds, high syllable trum of gold light. So we're like the ponderous pendulum of a grandfather clock. We are swinging from bliss and letting go back to awareness and letting go. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever hurt we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could begin to feel as non-graspable as real or imagined Akshobyas, mustard seeds, high syllable hung of blue light. You might say, dude, I don't know who these people are. I don't know who Amagosadi, Ratnasambhava, Akshobhya is, or who, or what, or why they're being all freaky. What's going on? Inquiring minds want to know. You don't need to know. At the very least, Let these serve as just archetypes of tantric union. The more you practice this, the more your body will recognize how colors or images can relate to various energy centers in your body. Effortlessness is the key. There are many chakra systems in Hinduism, not just one. And there are many chakra systems in Buddhism. The test of something being true is not whether it's familiar. The test of something being true is the results you get when you apply it regularly. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever threat we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could begin to feel as non-graspable as real or imagined. Oopsie, got a little carried away. Could begin to feel as non-graspable as real or imagined. Mustard seed size syllable tree of red light. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Molto bene. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever crown or scalp we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could begin to feel as non-graspable as real or imagined. Vadochanas, mustard seeds, I sit a bloom of white lines. So, un momento, s'il vous plaît. I'm going to open up an additional text I think it might be fun to play with. Okay, so quick like a bunny, I'm going over here to the sadhana button and tap heart practice. So in the spirit of full disclosure, this is my adaptation and amplification of the Padmakara group's translation of Dza Paul Trul Rinpoche's final meditation manual. Please chant with me. From the Dalai Lama's Forward, an excerpt. Here we go. Dza Paul Trul Rinpoche Jigme Choki Wangpo was a great bodhisattva. Oops, I did this again. At least I'm consistent, eh, kids? Dza Paul Trul Rinpoche Jigme Choki Wangpo. Oops. Dza Paul Trul Rinpoche Jigme Choki Wangpo was a great bodhisattva. Who came to Tibet, the land of the snows in more recent times. This great sublime and learned practitioner gave this teaching known as the instruction that is good in the beginning, middle, and end. The heart jewel of the sacred practice of the view, meditation, and conduct for the benefit of those desiring liberation. It comprises all the essential instructions and aha. I'm going to zig when you thought I was going to zag. Because some chants are easier and less mind-boggling than others, according to our friend Paul Simon. Whoops. And because of the profound meaning it contains and the beautiful language in which it is expressed. It really is like an elixir for reviving the dead. Now, of course, if Wednesday Adams was here, she would drag this out to the family cemetery and resurrect her dead relatives. Please do not zombify your relatives. Let us rest in spontaneous awareness and letting go. Namo Lokeshvaraya. If but a single drop of the nectar of your name were to fall upon my ears, they would be filled with the sound of Dharma for countless lives. Wondrous rituals may the brilliance of your renown bring perfect happiness everywhere. Like some persimmons in the autumn, which the wind sighs sullen ripe look ripe outside. I myself am just the semblance of a Dharma practitioner. And since my mind and the Dharma have not mixed, my Dharma teaching will not be up too much. During our inhalation, let us silently, mentally, and passively recite relaxing into this. During our exhalation, let us physically relax as best we can while striving to chant this 6-syllable mantra 8 times per breath. Om mani me me yung, 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 om mani me me yung. But since you were the friend and treat me insistently, I cannot refuse, I will speak out frankly. Unusual though it is in this decadent age, I offer you these words without treachery, so listen well. Om mani me me yung, 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 om mani me me yung. The true Rishi, the moon Indra, god of gods, attend the true level through the true path, and truly show the true and excellent path to others. Is that not why he is known as the true Rishi? Om mani me me yung, 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 om mani me me yung. Alas for the people in this age of razzitos. The mind, soul, some core of truth has withered, and people live deceitfully. Their thoughts are warped, their speech is twisted. They cunningly mislead others who can trust them. Om mani me me yung, 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 om mani me me yung. Alas, so discouraging to see the beings of this degenerate age. Alas, can anyone trust what anyone says? It is like living in the land of vicious man-eating demons. Think about it and do yourself a big favor. Whoops. Well, that's weird, isn't it? Let's see if I can't remedy that. Excellent. Oh, money me me 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 oh. Not long ago your consciousness was wandering alone. Swept along by karma, it took this present birth. Soon like a hair pulled out of butter. Leaving everything behind, you will go on again alone. Om mani me me 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 om. Of course, what we want is our own good. So we have to be honest with our own selves. If we do not master the essence of the Dharma for our own sake, will we not be squandering our own life's opportunity? Whoops. That is so weird. Oh, the wonder and mystery that is word, eh, kids? Om mani me me 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 om. In this dark age, what people think and do is vile, and none of them will help you. They could deceive and trick you, and for you to be of any help to them could be hard. Could it not be best to quit the whole rat race? Om mani mimi yung, 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 om mani mimi yung. Though you serve your so-called superiors, they might never be pleased. Though you look after your so-called inferiors, they might never be satisfied. Wow, did it again. Though you care about others, they might not care about you. Think about it and make a firm decision. Om mani mimi yung, 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 om mani mimi yung. Being learned these days might not help the teachings, it could just lead to more debate. Being realized these days might not help others, it could just lead to more criticism. Being in a responsible position these days might not help. Govern the country well, it might only spread revolt. Think about these times with sorrow and disgust. Om mani mimi yung, 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 om mani mimi yung. Though you explain, people could miss the point or simply not believe you. Though your motivation is truly altruistic, people might think it is not. These days when the crooked see the straight is crooked, you might not be able to help anyone give up any hope of that. Om mani mimi yung, 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 om mani mimi yung. Welcome to this evening's live stream. The moment you have a question about Buddhist chanting, Buddhist meditation, Buddhist philosophy, or their application, please type your question in great detail in the chat window. All phenomena are like magical illusions, said the Buddhas. But these days the illusions are more illusory than ever. Trickery is conjured up by devious illusionists. Beware of the illusions of this degenerate age's ways. Om mani mimi yung, 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 om mani mimi yung. All talk is like an echo, said the Buddhas, but these days it is more like the re-echo of an echo. What the echoes say and what they mean are not the same, so do not take any notice of these insidious echoes. Om mani mimi yung, 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 om mani mimi yung. Whoever you see is not human but a fraud. Whatever people say is not right but just lies. So since they say there is no one you can... Oopsie, I think I missed an editing opportunity. Whoever you see may not be human but a fraud. Whatever people say might not be right but just lies. So since he says there might be no one you can trust, you had better live alone and stay free. Om mani mimi yung, 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 om mani mimi yung. If your actions conform with Dharma, you could annoy many beings. If your words are truthful, most people could get angry. If your mind is truly good and pure, they could judge it a defect. Now is the time to keep your own way hidden. These words are prescient. Welcome, my friends, to late stage capitalism, where valuing justice is seen as a pathology. Om mani mimi yung, om mani mimi yung, om mani mimi yung, om mani... Oh, justice sensitivity. That's the word I was looking for. Om mani mimi yung, 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 om mani mimi yung. I must record a quick note for tomorrow morning. Page 104. Thank you for your patience. Okay, let us seal this practice by percussively chanting love and letting go's wishes for universal enlightenment and well-being. May all minds of all beings lucid yet void no be as enlightened as a Buddha's mind symbolized by a one-syllable bija. May all speech of all beings resounding yet void no be as loving as a Buddha's speech symbolized by a multi-syllable mantra. May all forms of all beings sensual yet void no be as healthy as a Adam depicted in Buddhist statuary. May all lots of all beings appearing yet void no be as fortunate as a pure land of law depicted in Buddhist paintings. If you feel that I have earned it, you could give this live stream a thumbs up. You could even help support this channel. In approximately 10 2/3 hours, I would very much like to return to lead tomorrow's early meditation class and group practice. And if you are as geeky as me, may the Force be with you always.